Dawn breaks over Mobile Bay, August 5, 1864. Admiral David Farragut climbs Hartford's rigging, lashing himself to the mast with rope. Below, torpedoes, crude underwater mines, wait beneath dark waters. One spark could tear wooden hulls apart. He scans the horizon, knowing many won't survive sunrise. Confederate Fort Morgan's guns dominate the channel. Inside, a young gunner named Thomas wipes sweat from his palms, checking his cannon for the third time. The bay represents the Confederacy's last major Gulf port. He whispers a prayer. Outside, 18 Union warships advance through morning mist. Farragut studies the narrow channel through his telescope. Deep water means sailing straight through the minefield. Hugging the shore brings Fort Morgan's guns within killing range. Both paths promise death. His hand trembles slightly. He clenches his fist. The fleet waits for his signal. Choose now or lose everything. Aboard USS Tecumseh, Commander Tunis Craven orders his ironclad forward into the channel. Sailors below deck shovel coal into roaring furnaces, unaware they're crossing their own graves. Craven believes iron armor will protect them from underwater explosions. Within the hour, he'll discover how terribly wrong he is. You'd recognize Confederate Admiral Franklin Buchanan. He once commanded this same bay for the Union. Now he prepares to kill former friends. His ironclad Tennessee could ram wooden ships, splitting hulls with a single strike. But can one vessel defeat 18? Buchanan grips the rail. Courage must overcome impossible odds. The column advances at 7 a.m. Wooden ships lash themselves in pairs, large vessels protecting smaller partners. Steam engines churn white foam. A chaplain on Brooklyn's deck leads prayer, his voice lost in machinery's rumble. Fort Morgan's cannons open fire. Thunder rolls across the bay. Metal screams through the air. Tecumseh surges ahead, leading the monitor line. Craven spots Tennessee in the distance and alters course to engage her directly. This turn carries Tecumseh over the minefield's heart. Topside sailors hear only waves slapping iron hull. Below, stokers wipe their brows, joking about Southern marksmanship. They have 90 seconds left. The torpedo detonates beneath Tecumseh's hull with muffled thunder. Water erupts through torn plating. The monitor lurches violently, bow plunging downward into darkness. Craven and his pilot meet at the ladder, one escape for two men. "After you, pilot," Craven says, stepping back. Chivalry drowns him. The pilot survives, forever haunted. I watched Tecumseh vanish bow first, her stern rising vertical before sliding beneath the surface. 93 men died in crushing darkness. 21 escaped. Our column halted, paralyzed by invisible death. Ships clustered together, perfect targets. Fort Morgan's shells smashed wooden hulls. Fire spread. Screaming began. Someone had to break our paralysis. From Hartford's rigging, Farragut watches his attack collapse into chaos. Ships reverse engines, retreating from the minefield. Confederate artillery finds range. Each shot kills men and hope. The entire Union fleet will die here unless someone acts. His officers shout warnings about torpedoes ahead. Farragut knows. He's always known the danger. Captain Percival Drayton commands Hartford's deck below. "Admiral, the monitors warn of torpedoes." Farragut's jaw tightens. Retreat guarantees defeat. Advance risks annihilation. Mobile stays open, feeding Confederate armies. His decision will save or doom hundreds. Seconds stretch into eternities. Every eye watches him. History pivots on his next breath. He speaks. "Damn the torpedoes! Full speed ahead!" Hartford surges forward, leading directly into the minefield. You can hear mines scraping against the hull, lethal metal eggs dragging along wood. Death whispers beneath every wave. Sailors grip railings, waiting for the explosion that will tear them apart. Yet, Hartford keeps moving. Following ships find courage. The mines prove defective. Months submerged in salt water corroded their firing mechanisms. They bump Hartford's hull harmlessly, making hollow sounds. Others detonate prematurely, throwing water skyward but missing targets. Confederate ingenuity meets Confederate poverty, brilliant designs, undermined by insufficient resources. Union luck turns. The channel opens. Fort Morgan's guns continue firing uselessly. Inside the bay, Tennessee charges alone toward 18 Union ships. Her iron plates deflect cannon shots like raindrops on stone. Buchanan's ram aims for Hartford's wooden hull. One strike could sink Farragut's flagship, killing the admiral and breaking Union resolve. Sailors watch death approaching, powerless to stop the armored monster. Hartford's helmsman spins the wheel desperately. The flagship turns, presenting her broadside. Every gun fires simultaneously at point-blank range. Cannonballs ricochet off Tennessee's armor, screaming skyward. The ironclad passes within feet, her ram missing Hartford by inches. Iron scrapes wood. Buchanan circles for another attack. The dance of death begins again. Union monitors Chickasaw and Manhattan close on Tennessee. Turrets, rotating ponderously. Ironclad battles ironclad. Solid shot hammers Confederate armor, repeatedly. Tennessee's gunport shutters jam from impacts. Buchanan can't return fire. His ship becomes blind and deaf, absorbing punishment from every direction. Inside, temperature soars past 130 degrees. Men collapse from heat. USS Lackawanna rams Tennessee at full speed, her bow crushing against Confederate iron. The impact tears Lackawanna's bowsprit away but barely dents Tennessee's plating. Monongahela strikes next, followed by Hartford herself. 3 collisions within 15 minutes. Tennessee's armor holds, but steering chains snap. The ironclad drifts helpless, unable to maneuver through the chaos. Inside Tennessee, hell becomes real. Smoke chokes the crew. A Union shell fragments the armor plate, sending iron shrapnel ricocheting through the casemate like hornets. Metal strikes Admiral Buchanan's leg, shattering bone. He collapses. Blood pools across the deck. His executive officer takes command, surveying the carnage, knowing surrender approaches inevitably. Chickasaw positions herself directly astern of drifting Tennessee, hammering the Confederate ironclad's vulnerable stern armor methodically. Each impact shakes Tennessee like earthquake tremors. Iron plates crack audibly. Bolts shear off. Armor begins failing catastrophically. Wounded men realize their iron fortress becomes their iron coffin. Someone raises white flags. Surrender or die trapped inside. Tennessee's commander orders surrender. The battered ironclad yields after fighting alone against Farragut's entire fleet. Union sailors cheer hoarsely, voices ruined by powder smoke. Confederate seamen emerge from Tennessee's hatches, squinting in sunlight, grateful for air not thick with gunpowder and blood. The naval battle ends. Fort Morgan continues fighting stubbornly. You'd think Fort Morgan would surrender after the fleet's defeat. Confederate garrison refuses. Union ships begin systematic bombardment. Shells arc through blue sky, crashing into brick walls. Explosions throw dust skyward. Inside, Southern soldiers crouch beneath vaulted ceilings, counting impacts, praying walls hold. Thomas, the young gunner, continues loading his cannon mechanically. For 3 weeks, Union forces besiege Fort Morgan relentlessly. Naval guns pound walls from the bay. Army artillery hammers from land. Supplies dwindle. Water runs low. Wounded fill interior rooms, moaning through feverish nights. General Richard Page refuses every surrender demand. His soldiers fight on, duty overcoming hopelessness, honor outlasting logic. On August 23rd, Union monitors approach Fort Morgan at close range. Their heavy guns demolish entire wall sections. Magazine explosions rock the fortress violently. Fire spreads through wooden structures. That night, Page acknowledges the inevitable truth. At dawn, Fort Morgan surrenders. Thomas lays down his ramrod, hands shaking. Mobile Bay becomes Union territory. The victory closes the Confederacy's last major Gulf port. Blockade runners can no longer bring European weapons through Mobile. Southern armies lose critical supplies, yet Mobile City remains Confederate, protected by inland defenses. Farragut controls the bay, but not the city beyond. Victory proves incomplete, though strategically decisive nonetheless. I tallied the casualty lists afterward. Union forces lost 319 men killed, wounded, or captured. Confederate losses reached 1,200, mostly prisoners from Fort Morgan. Tecumseh's crew haunted the numbers 93 sailors drowned in minutes. Their iron coffin rests on the bay floor still, undisturbed for generations. Farragut's victory earns him promotion to Vice Admiral, the Navy's first officer holding that rank. Congress strikes a gold medal in his honor. Northern newspapers celebrate the triumph enthusiastically. He becomes a national hero. Yet at night, he remembers Tecumseh's survivors clinging to wreckage and wounded men screaming aboard Tennessee. Glory carries weight. The captured CSS Tennessee undergoes repairs at Union shipyards. Engineers study her armor design, seeking improvements for future ironclads. The once proud Confederate defender becomes a Union prize, serving her former enemies. Tennessee's service under the Stars and Stripes extends until war's end. Victory transforms enemies into tools. Nothing stays sacred. Mobile itself endures another 8 months before Confederate forces abandon the city. Union troops march through empty streets in April, finding warehouses burned and wharves destroyed. Residents watch from windows, faces expressionless. The Bay Battle decided Mobile's fate months earlier. The city's fall merely confirms the inevitable. Time delays but doesn't prevent destiny. Did Farragut actually shout, "Damn the torpedoes"? Some witnesses report different words. Others recall only gestures and bell signals. The exact phrase matters less than the decision it represents. Advancing through fear, leading when others freeze, choosing action over paralysis. That choice defined the battle. Words become legend, deeds remain eternal. The minefield stretched across the channel using primitive technology, glass demijohns filled with gunpowder, sealed with pitch, triggered by contact fuses. Most failed due to corrosion. Had Confederate torpedoes functioned properly, Farragut's fleet might have suffered catastrophic losses. Victory balanced on defective weapons and corroded wires. Luck favors the bold sometimes. Admiral Buchanan survives his wound, imprisoned until war ends. After release, he serves as president of Maryland Agricultural College. His former enemy, Farragut, visits him later. Two old sailors share memories over whiskey. War's hatreds fade faster than war's scars. They discuss ships and battles, carefully avoiding politics. Old age brings unexpected reconciliation. Fort Morgan's brick walls still stand today, scarred by Union shells. Visitors walk through corridors where Confederate soldiers waited under bombardment. The fort becomes a museum, gun-silent sentinels pointing toward the bay. Tourists photograph the same waters where Tecumseh vanished and Tennessee surrendered. History transforms battlefields into classrooms mercifully. Tecumseh's wreck remained undisturbed for over a century. In 1967, researchers locate the monitor using sonar. Divers photograph the intact hull resting upright on the bay floor. Iron turret still rotates freely. Human remains rest inside peacefully. The Navy declares Tecumseh a war grave. No salvage permitted. Only remembrance allowed. The battle demonstrates ironclad warfare's evolving nature clearly. Monitors prove vulnerable to mines but resistant to ramming and gunfire. Wooden ships remain effective when properly protected and maneuvered skillfully. Naval doctrine shifts toward combined fleets ironclads for shock power, wooden vessels for speed and versatility. Mobile Bay teaches lessons applied in future wars. You need to understand how Farragut's victory contributes to Lincoln's re-election. August 1864 brings military despair across the North. Sherman besieges Atlanta. Grant bleeds in Virginia. Voters consider negotiating peace with Confederacy. Mobile Bay provides hope. Sherman captures Atlanta days later. Northern morale recovers dramatically. Lincoln wins November's election. Confederate sailors aboard Tennessee fight knowing defeat approaches inevitably. Yet they serve until surrender becomes the only honorable choice. Their courage mirrors Union sailors advancing through minefields despite watching Tecumseh sink. Bravery exists on both sides equally. War wastes courage impartially, killing heroes regardless of their flag. Mobile Bay proves that brutal truth. The battle's strategic impact extends beyond closing Mobile's port. Union control enables future operations along Alabama's coast. Confederate supply lines shrink further. Southern armies receive fewer weapons, uniforms, medicines. Every closed port weakens the Confederacy's ability to sustain war. Mobile Bay accelerates the South's economic strangulation. Ports matter more than battles. I found letters describing sailors' fear entering the minefield. Diaries recount Tennessee's final fight. Survivors remember comrades lost when Tecumseh sank. These individual voices transform statistics into human experiences. History remembers not just battles won or lost, but people who fought, suffered, survived, or died trying. Names matter more than numbers. Modern naval tactics still echo Mobile Bay's lessons. Minefields remain deadly obstacles, requiring careful navigation or clearance. Combined arms operations using different vessel types prove more effective than single ship-class fleets. Bold leadership at critical moments can overcome technological disadvantages. Farragut's decisions influence naval doctrine over a century later. Some lessons endure forever. The battle lasted 4 hours. Fort Morgan's siege extended 3 weeks. Yet those hours and weeks shaped the war's trajectory permanently. Mobile closed. Resources constricted. Confederate hopes diminished. Union momentum built toward inevitable victory. Small actions cascade into large consequences. Single battles sometimes decide nations' fates. Mobile Bay proved that truth conclusively. Farragut lashing himself to Hartford's rigging created an iconic image. The gesture demonstrated visible leadership, commanders sharing danger with their men. Sailors fighting below couldn't see their admiral, but they knew he stood exposed to enemy fire. Leadership requires presence. Courage becomes contagious when leaders embrace risk. Heroes lead from the front always. Why did Fort Morgan's garrison continue fighting after Tennessee surrendered? Duty, pride, hope for relief, or simple stubbornness? Soldiers seldom explain motivations clearly. They fight because surrender feels worse than danger. Honor sometimes outweighs logic. Fort Morgan's garrison embodied that contradiction. Thomas kept loading his cannon because stopping meant admitting defeat meant something. The victory celebration aboard Union ships mixed joy with sorrow. Sailors cheered survival while shipmates' bodies lay covered on decks. Victory's price surrounded every cheer. Wounded men screamed below as surgeons amputated shattered limbs. Celebration and grief coexisted, reminding survivors that triumph arrives soaked in blood. No victory comes clean, ever. Technology advances between Tecumseh's sinking and modern navies seem astronomical. Yet fundamental challenges remain constant. Navigating dangerous waters, overcoming fear, leading under fire, maintaining courage when death approaches. Human factors transcend technological change. The sailors who fought at Mobile Bay face timeless challenges. Their experiences echo across generations, unchanged. Mobile Bay's civilians watched the battle from rooftops and shorelines. Thunder rolled across water. Smoke obscured details. Explosions sent shockwaves through air. Residents couldn't determine which side prevailed until ships anchored and flags became visible. For those hours, they existed in suspended uncertainty, their futures decided by distant men aboard ships. The Union blockade's cumulative effect doomed the Confederacy more than any single battle. Mobile Bay represented one port among many closed to Southern commerce. Charleston, Wilmington, Savannah, each captured port tightened the noose. The Confederacy slowly strangled, unable to import necessities or export cotton. Naval warfare wins through persistence, not dramatic victories alone. Farragut retires after war, celebrated as America's greatest naval hero. He travels abroad, receiving honors from European nations. Yet in quiet moments, he remembers men screaming and burning ships and Tecumseh sliding beneath dark water. Glory accompanies memory's burden. Heroes carry their dead through decades. Triumph never erases witnessing friends die horribly. The battle influenced naval architecture for generations. Designers studied how Tennessee withstood ramming and gunfire, why Tecumseh sank so quickly, which armor configurations proved most effective. Engineers translated combat experience into improved ships. Every battle becomes a laboratory. Blood purchases knowledge. Mobile Bay's lessons shaped ironclads constructed worldwide through the century's remainder. Confederate prisoners from Fort Morgan face uncertain futures. Some take loyalty oaths and go home. Others remain imprisoned until war ends. A few join Union forces, switching sides for survival. War creates impossible choices. Men do what they must to see tomorrow. Historians judge these decisions harshly. Survivors simply tried living another day. The torpedoes that failed to sink Hartford haunt Confederate planners. Properly functioning mines could have devastated Farragut's fleet catastrophically. The South possessed innovative technology, but lacked manufacturing quality to ensure reliability. Brilliant designs failed through poor execution. The Confederacy's industrial weakness doomed clever weapons. Ideas alone cannot win wars. Production capacity determines outcomes. Union sailors who survived Tecumseh's sinking carried trauma throughout their lives. Nightmares replayed the Monitor's sudden plunge, darkness flooding iron compartments, water crushing lungs. Psychological wounds outlasted physical injuries. The Navy offered no treatment for traumatized minds. Survivors struggled alone, their invisible wounds unrecognized. War damages souls alongside bodies, permanently. General Page faces criticism for prolonging Fort Morgan's inevitable siege. Why sacrifice men defending an already lost position? Page believed duty required fighting until ordered to surrender, or physically unable to continue. His interpretation of honor cost lives. Different officers might have surrendered earlier. Command requires choosing between competing values. Leadership means accepting consequences. The bay's geography favored defenders. Narrow channels forced attackers into predictable paths under concentrated fire. Fort Morgan's position commanded the entrance perfectly. Underwater obstacles multiplied defensive advantages. Yet Farragut overcame these advantages through aggressive tactics and accepting casualties. Sometimes superior determination defeats superior position. Will overcomes geography when commanders risk everything. Ship's logs record the battle's minute-by-minute progression. Entries note course changes, enemy positions, casualties, damage, reports systematically. These dry official records contrast sharply with personal letters describing terror and confusion. Official history preserves facts. Personal accounts preserve truth. Both narratives matter. Understanding requires reading between formal lines to find human experiences beneath. The captured fort becomes Union property. Garrisoned by Northern troops, former Confederate positions host enemy soldiers. Flags change, allegiances reverse, buildings remain unchanged physically. Fort Morgan serves whoever controls Mobile Bay. Stone and brick care nothing for politics. Fortifications outlast the causes they defend. Permanence mocks temporary loyalties. Only stones remember everything. I attended a veterans reunion decades later. Former enemies shared memories. Union and Confederate sailors discovered common experiences, transcending old hatreds. They survived the same battle, feared the same death, heard the same screams. Shared trauma creates bonds stronger than old animosities. Time transforms enemies into brothers who uniquely understand each other completely. The battle receives limited attention compared to land campaigns like Gettysburg or Antietam. Naval warfare lacks infantry charges visual drama. Yet Mobile Bay mattered enormously strategically. Closing ports slowly choked Confederate resistance. The blockade won the war as surely as Grant's armies. History sometimes overlooks decisive actions, lacking photogenic glory, unfortunately. Farragut's descendant serves aboard USS Farragut, a destroyer named for the Admiral. Generations later, his legacy continues inspiring sailors. The tradition of naming ships after heroes connects present crews to historical examples. Every USS Farragut reminds sailors about courage under fire and leading from the front. Names carry weight and expectation across centuries. Archaeological research continues at Tecumseh's wreck site. Non-invasive surveys map the Monitor's interior without disturbing remains. Technology allows studying history without desecrating graves. Scientists learn about ironclad construction, crew conditions, why the ship sank so rapidly. Knowledge grows without disturbing the dead. Respect and research coexist through careful methodology, fortunately. Confederate torpedoes represented early submarine warfare technology. Developers understood mines' potential but lacked resources to perfect them. The concept proved sound. Execution failed. Future wars would see vastly improved mines sinking countless vessels. Mobile Bay demonstrated underwater weapons promise. Technology eventually fulfilled that promise with devastating effectiveness in wars to come tragically. The battle tested steam-powered naval tactics. Sailing ships once depended on wind. Steamers maneuvered independently. This freedom allowed Farragut to advance despite unfavorable conditions. Steam power revolutionized naval warfare more than ironclad armor. Mobility trumped protection. Mobile Bay demonstrated steam's tactical advantages clearly. Future navies universally adopted steam propulsion. The age of sail ended. Union victory at Mobile Bay contributed to Sherman's march to the sea. Controlling Alabama's coast enabled supply lines supporting Sherman's campaign. Naval operations facilitated land campaigns. Combined arms strategy Army and Navy coordinating proved essential for victory. No service wins wars alone. Mobile Bay exemplified joint operations importance. Modern military doctrine reflects lessons learned there. The battle's memory faded for decades, overshadowed by land campaigns. Only naval historians remembered Farragut's victory. But late 20th century scholarship rediscovered Mobile Bay's significance. New histories emphasized the blockade's decisive role. Farragut regained recognition as a strategic genius whose victories strangled Confederate resistance. Scholarly fashions resurrect forgotten battles. History rewrites itself continually. Personal items recovered from Tecumseh tell intimate stories. A sailor's pocket watch stopped at the sinking moment precisely. Buttons from a uniform coat. A belt buckle. These objects connect modern researchers to men who died wearing them. Artifacts transform statistics into individuals. History becomes personal when touching objects the dead last touched gently. Mobile Bay stands as testament to courage, sacrifice, and determination. Sailors from both sides demonstrated extraordinary bravery. Some died heroes, others survived haunted. The battle helped end slavery, preserved the Union, shaped naval warfare's future. Yet for those who fought there, it remained simply the day they faced death and wondered if they'd see tomorrow's sunrise again.